Hello and welcome to the first episode of Kill James Bond, a podcast in which us three pursue noted tuxedo spy dickhead James Bond Sr. through 24 films, innumerable other properties, and because, I wanted to mention why we're doing this, right? James Bond is a fucking asshole, man. And every other podcast about James Bond is about how cool he is, how the aesthetic is good. No, that's not what we're doing. The podcast that we're doing here, this is about how much of a prick James Bond is.
We are an anti-Bond podcast.
Specifically anti-Bond cast.
And we are going to introduce ourselves. So, without further ado, the name's Caldwell Kelly. Alice Caldwell Kelly.
The name's Thorne. Abigail Thorne.
And I'm Devon.
What else do we know about this Chinese gentleman?
Nothing much, except his name. Dr. No.
I like it. I like it.
Right, we've got production values this time. And we are going to be we're going to be pursuing James Bond through the chronological films, which means we're starting with the first one, Dr. No, not the fucking bullshit comedy Casino Royale.
We might touch
this is the
later
first
on,
one.
But we're starting out with the first serious one.
Yes, and that is Dr. No. How did we all feel about this movie, having seen it for this?
Well, Dev, am I right in thinking it was the first time you've seen a Bond film?
Yeah, not the first time I'd seen a Bond film. I'd only seen Skyfall before, so everything that I was seeing, I was comparing to like the later Daniel Craig Bonds, and it's remarkable just how different it is.
Yeah, this is such an early 60s movie. And I figure what I'll do is I'll take us through it. I'll give us the synopsis and then just jump in. Because I'm now occupying the showrunner role for the first time, which means you guys get to be the tangent idiots.
Perfect.
Yeah,
you get to pull the thing off track. So I hope you're very excited for
the
that.
role I was born to play.
Well, actually, Dev, it's funny that you should mention the roles that we were born to play, because one of the reasons I was so interested in doing a podcast about James Bond, well, the two reasons, one political and one personal. The political one is that I have this hypothesis that James Bond is quite like Doctor Who, in that frequently it's almost good. However, unlike Doctor Who, when James Bond is bad, it's bad for interesting reasons. Doctor Who is bad because they write it on Friday and film it on Monday and have a budget of 10 pence. James Bond has all the money and talent in the world behind it, but it somehow manages to suck almost every time. And often in ways that reflect interesting things about the society that made it.
Well, what's really funny is that Dr. No is different from a lot of the other Bond movies in that this was the last one, the only one, in which they had no budget whatsoever.
An absolute shoestring. From what I found out, they paid the main woman $6,000. Like maximum to be in this.
Ooh, what's
in
that in modern money?
1962, that's not going to be a lot of money. Yeah.
Well, and the other reason and why it occurred to me when you said the roles we were born to play, Dev, is the biggest note that I've made in my notes here is just the word hauntology in big capital letters, because Alice and I think, had quite similar upbringings in that we both went to private schools. We were both military cadets. I actually went to a university from which MI6 recruits, and I know people at my old university who definitely did not join MI6. That definitely did not happen.
You get to do the cool thing where you say, I work for the Foreign Office, despite having no diplomatic skills.
I won't name anybody just in case a bunch of terrorists are sitting around a table somewhere listening to this podcast, and all of a sudden they're going to turn to one guy and go, wait, what?
Doctor No is hauntology because well, let me take you through the beginning, right? And the beginning made me think I was dissociating because it's the first Bond movie. I mean, excuse me, it's the only Bond movie until like one of the late Brosnan ones that doesn't have a live action title sequence. It's all highly 60s animated. You got some mad fucking flashing dots. You have a change of song to a calypso song partway through.
Absolutely jarring transition about midway through.
Yeah, and the first live action shot that you see in James Bond is 3 Jamaican men pretending to be blind in order to shoot a guy with a silenced pistol.
Yes, it's very, very weird as an opening. There's some very odd editing choices right throughout this. There's a lot of bad jump cuts. There's almost no establishing shots ever. I'm not sure whether that's because they had to switch onto a different kind of film to shoot outdoors and the lighting didn't work, because all the indoor stuff is 35mm. But yeah, I don't know why that is, but it's some very unusual editing going on.
Mm-hmm. And so we start with not James Bond. It takes us a long time to meet James Bond. We start with these villains, these 3 Jamaicans on Jamaica, who ruthlessly murder the station chief of MI7, because it's not MI6 yet.
They overdub it very badly.
They overdub it very obviously to say it's MI7.
MI7. Yeah. And so this guy, John Strangways, which fantastic name, by the way, is engaged in sort of hauntological pursuits, right? He's literally at his club, the Queen's Club, with a bunch of other white friends, this retired general from the Indian Army and a professor, and they're all playing bridge. And then he has to go and take a phone call from MI7, and he gets got.
And he gets assassinated in such a haphazard way. The 3 guys pretending to be blind might as well have just not even bothered with that. They just sort of walk past him and then rotate and just shoot him.
In broad daylight, too.
AI set to hostile suddenly, and they veer out and they shoot him with a silenced pistol.
It's so
Not only that, but they then kill his secretary. The unforgivable crime, because spies had to have secretaries back then. And so they break in to his house, and while his secretary is like on the radio, which is this enormous sort of wood-paneled contraption, you're going, come in London, come in London, this is Jamaica.
That's Jamaica there.
Jamaica, she gets also got with the brightest red stain.
Acrylic red paint, man.
Oh,
it's
strawberry jam. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I loved it.
This is our inciting incident.
Fun fact about that last. She got that job to play the secretary because she owned that house they were filming in.
Yes, she's not an actress, yeah. I thought she did a passable job.
It's such a classic shoestring budget thing to do. Just like, fuck, you own the space. I guess you're an employee of ours now.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this is our inciting incident, is murder most foul. And we see this travel all the way up the chain through a series of like poorly overdubbed bits of footage of like radio signals, intercept sectors and stuff. And then finally we get to James Bond, who is in the club at Les Ambassadeurs.
Yeah, not just any club, but the casino at Les Ambassadeurs, which was then an extremely famous high-stakes casino. So it's quite a clever bit of sort of character establishment, because the first thing we learn about James Bond is that he's a gambler.
He's a gambler.
Big
he
gambler.
Moves in these circles. Incidentally, the first time we hear his name spoken, the guy mispronounces it. Check this out.
I'm looking for Mr. James Bond.
Bond. Mr. James Bond.
Hello, I'm looking for Mr. James Bond.
The problem is that everyone in Britain at that time had mouthfuls of cotton 24/7.
That is true. And there's a lot of that in this movie, because that's part of the hauntology, is that like this is absolutely a dying seconds of empire thing. And so every single British person that we speak to who isn't Bond, who is the only person to have like any kind of a sort of regional accent, talks exactly like that, Mr. Bond. And so we join him in the club where he gets to do the famous James Bond thing, which I don't dignify with having a drop for. And
we hate him. We don't want to dignify that.
No, he's playing high stakes chemin de fer, a game for dickheads.
A game that has no skill involved. Again, it's a character establishing moment. It's purely a game of luck. I think mainly the main attribute that we learn about Bond is that he's lucky.
Yes. In fact, that's the first thing that's said about him is the hot girl, Sylvia Trench, across the chemin de fer table. He says, I admire your tenacity, Miss Trench. And she says, I admire your luck, Mr. Bond. And then, of course, he immediately tries his luck. And this is the other fun thing about Dr. No, is that it's still in the age of Bond where you could have every woman on screen look as if they constantly want to fuck James Bond.
Well, in fact,
they do.
When Sylvia Trench appeared on screen, I started a timer just to see how long it would be before they fucked. 9 minutes and 10 seconds, if anyone was wondering.
It's about that in universe as well.
Roundabout.
Yeah, but Bond excuses himself from this hideous damask wallpapered casino, and goes to his like boomer ass, extremely spacious flat and finds her there wearing one of his shirts and playing golf, which is an interesting case of perception.
In the original script, she was supposed to be naked.
Wow. Yeah, and so Bond gets this line where he's like, "No, I have to leave immediately to do spy stuff," and she makes out with him.
Because he goes to see M first.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, you're right. Yeah, I forget. This is the thing, right? It's so tempting to make Bond more responsible than he is. But like, no, what he actually does is he gets pulled out of the casino to go to work.
Yeah,
right?
as
Which is
Dr.
why
No
he's
later says, you're nothing but a stupid policeman.
stupid policeman.
You are just a stupid policeman.
So he goes to see M.
Mm-hmm.
He's been summoned.
Yeah, which is why he's first introduced in the fucking tuxedo, is because he's just been gambling on work time, essentially.
Yeah, this is just what he does on a Friday night. He just goes and blows tens of thousands of pounds in Les Ambassadeurs.
Perfect.
He meets Moneypenny for the first time, and they hadn't really sort of fixed the Moneypenny character yet. So like, later Moneypenny is more like, oh well, you are gonna flirt with me, but I'm gonna pretend like I don't like it. Whereas this Moneypenny is just like, why aren't you fucking me right now?
Well, at least she is established to clearly be into it.
Yes.
She's pretty much the only woman James in the entire series who is established to, like, you know, consensually want James Bond to flirt with her, which is kind of nice. She's also the only female member of the cast who is not overdubbed.
We trust her.
Everyone else is overdubbed. Yeah, most of the other roles are overdubbed by the same woman.
It is the same voice the whole way through. That was what I was thinking.
It is.
I was
Because
losing
they have
my mind.
This is where you get the origin of the like sexy Bond lady voice.
I was losing my mind.
It's sort of faintly exotic, a little bit breathy, and it's just one woman who they got to do it because they didn't. They hired one sound editor. Most movies have at least two. They had one. And this is what they got them to do, which is why there are a lot of shots of people talking and their lips don't move.
But as we see later on, there's another female character who is played by a white woman in yellowface.
Yes, I was going to make
a lot of that going on.
I love the redundancy of hiring a white actress, putting her in yellowface, and then
getting a white woman to dub.
Just to make sure that nobody foreign is allowed anywhere near this film.
I mean, there were multiple Asian women cast in it, but they just were never allowed to fuck Bond, obviously.
No, of course not, because that would be dangerous and repulsive to the viewers of 1962. Right. Anyway, so he goes to meet his boss, M, who is this sort of fatherly figure. Incidental detail, I always really liked the fact that M has this sort of cool double door design to his office where both of the doors are like covered in leather, right? I thought this was this incredible piece of like world building. I thought it captured a real aesthetic. The reason why they did that is because it was cheaper. It's made of plastic because they couldn't afford a real door.
I thought it was like a soundproofing thing, or it's to stop people shooting him through the door. Or...
Later, they kind of worked to that, but no, in Dr. No, they originated it just because they had some plastic sheeting and no door, so they just built a door and covered it with this, so it didn't look too bad. And M introduces Bond to Well, first he like passive aggressively like takes his gun off him and is like, "What is this? A gun for ants?"
No, he goes like, "What is this? A woman's gun?" Because the guy takes it and he's like,
"What are you, gay
nice
or
and light
something?"
in a woman's handbag. And it's like, yo, this guy's got a gay gun.
Yeah, he does. When they bring in Q, he's like, "This is a gun for girls, Bond."
Bond, what are you, a pussy, Bond?
Not even Q yet. It's just like a guy.
His name was Major Boothroyd.
Major Boothroyd, named for a guy who wrote to Ian Fleming when he was writing the Bond novels, complaining about the gun that Bond used and complaining that he should use a Walther instead of a Beretta because it was, a gun for
ladies.
Women and homosexuals. Right. Yeah.
Again, hauntology, because as soon as he said the word Beretta, I remembered that I unsuccessfully in university tried to date the heiress to Beretta. So again, hauntology.
A highly Abbey story.
I went to Aberystwyth.
Mm-hmm. I went to the University of Glasgow. I was informed that it was as good. No, anyway. So M takes his gun, replaces it with the Walther, and introduces him to the lowest stakes plot in the entire franchise. And that plot is somebody is going to make the Americans' moon rockets fall over.
That's
Rocket
it.
fall down, Bond.
Rocket, Mr. Bond, are you aware that rocket fall down?
We're going to get a lot of good data out of that, though. That's the thing.
It's like never. It's never explained why anyone should give a shit. Least of all the British.
MI7 being like,
Bond, they're going to drop the rocket. They're going to knock SpaceX's new moon mission over. Bond, you've got to go kill some Jamaicans, Mr. Bond.
It could be inferred that if they manage to topple the rocket successfully, then they might do the same to missiles, I suppose. But no, I don't think anyone explicitly makes that connection.
Nobody bothers to do that. It's not even clear whether it's like a manned rocket.
But of course, this is 1962, so we are pre-moon landing.
Yeah, that's right.
We haven't landed on the moon yet, so the Americans are about to launch another rocket to go around the moon with someone on it. And some of their recent rockets have gone a little bit squiffy. And so they send Bond to Jamaica to say, well, why are these rockets missing? It couldn't be because launching a rocket's quite hard. It must be because a sinister man in yellow face with fake hands is doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so Bond stops off. He's told, like, get on the plane immediately. You have 3 hours. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to stop off for pussy. Which he does. He goes home.
That's right.
Finds Sylvia Trench wearing one of his shirts and playing golf, which, again, is wild. Fucks her, gets on the plane.
Never established how she got in.
No,
she broke in.
He doesn't like have any kind of security or anything.
Doesn't even lock his door, yeah.
And we get a classic Bond scene, much imitated over the years, of Bond arrives in an airport and everyone in that airport is following him.
It's a very Naked Gun, isn't it?
Yes. It's missing is guy looks through eye holes cut in newspaper.
I thought we were going to get that because they introduced a guy holding a massive newspaper and I was like, yes, let's go. But they didn't go for the eye holes. They just had him stand nearby in an extremely conspicuous way.
And everyone is like extremely suspicious looking in different ways, except for his extremely friendly and extremely sweaty driver, who is like, yeah, no, I've been sent by Government House, because Jamaica is still a British colony. Government House has sent me, a swarthy man, to carry your bags and drive you to the thing.
You have just walked off a plane with a loaded gun, which no one took off you, and which, by the way, when
five martinis deep.
You haven't slept because we've established that you've been up all night getting pussy. Also, as when Boothby gives him the gun in the previous scene, Boothby loads the gun, gives it to Bond. Bond looks at it and then just puts it away. He performs no kind of safety check at all. So Bond has just got off a plane, drunk, sex-addled with a gun, and this swarthy man is like, hey, welcome to Jamaica.
This movie absolutely says fuck trigger discipline. Every time Bond picks up a gun, the first thing he does is put his finger on the trigger, and the second thing he does is put his other hand over the top of the barrel to like manipulate it around. It fucking rules. But like he meets this swarthy man who's like, yeah, no, I'm your chauffeur, places a phone call in a phone box and immediately blows that guy's cover as an assassin.
Mm.
And then, in what is a perfect Bond moment, he knows that this guy cannot be trusted. He knows he's there to try and kill him, gets in the back of his car anyway, just as a flex.
Yeah, again, what we know about Bond is that he's lucky. That's pretty much all we know at this stage.
He's lucky, and he fucks a lot, and he's very, very, very stupid.
You are just a stupid policeman.
I'm going to get so much use out of that drop.
Did you? One thing I'd note, and this is completely uninteresting, it could be cut, but the point where he's giving the phone call, he also gets like a word inserted halfway through his sentence. It's like, so he's going like, very good, I'll see you later, but like they insert the word "the" halfway through because he's clearly like mangled the pronunciation once, and they instead of overdubbing the whole line, they just redub one word right in the middle of it, and it's so jarring to listen to.
So Bond gets in this guy's car, and there's a car chase. The first car chase in Bond, and it's like this Packard is following them, so Bond makes the guy get off the road and then beats him up. And the thing that I want to like note from this as he beats this guy for information is that across this movie, James Bond has two moves. Like in a combat sense, he can judo throw a guy, or he can punch a guy in the face with a right hook, and that's all he does. And once you watch this movie, it's impossible to see it as like anything else other than Bond presses A button, Bond presses B button.
You made this observation in the group chat earlier before I rewatched the movie just before recording, and you're completely right. He only ever does two moves.
Sean Connery famously only had light attack and heavy attack. That's all he had.
He never learned any specials.
And gun, obviously.
But Bond does heavy attack, light attack on this guy, and he's like, "Oh yeah, okay, I was sent to kill you. I'm sweating so much right now. By the way, I am slick. I don't know how you're holding me.
Completely moistened man.
Aren't you Scottish? Yeah. How are you not just like melted? You're a Scotsman on Jamaica.
Yeah, and Bond does the thing, tell me who you work for, and the guy fucking kills himself with a cyanide capsule in a cigarette. He like talks Bond into letting him have a cigarette, and then he bites down on it and fucking dies.
Bond makes this hilarious face as well. He's like, oh shit.
Fuck.
Oh shit.
Oh, I probably shouldn't have done that one.
Yeah, and he talks Bond into it with the sentence, "Let me have a cigarette."
Yeah,
and
which
Bond
is
goes,
so badly
absolutely.
dubbed too. Yeah, I see no problem here. And so Bond just drives this dead-ass man to Government House.
In a convertible with just a corpse in the back.
Yeah, he's just in the back. And he leaves him in the care of the Jamaican police. And once again, everybody has this accent. Everybody is from the Foreign Office. Everybody is very dignified. All of the policemen are wearing shorts and long socks because that's just how the British Empire was. Mm-hmm. It's very bad.
An empire of dads.
Fit alert.
Yeah, an empire of dads. And he sort of he pumps the dads for information. He finds out about this bridge fall, and he goes to Strangway's house and finds this photo of him with a local Jamaican man. And of course, because Bond is...
You are just a stupid policeman.
Immediately the most suspicious thing in the house. And so he's like, I got to find this guy. And this guy turns out to be named Quarrel.
Oh, and I'm going to be very angry about the treatment of Quarrel for the rest of this.
Quarrel.
I'm going to put a marker down here. Dr. No is going to be the most racist Bond movie, at least until we get to Live and Let Die. Because
really,
I
what about You Only Live Twice?
So. Oh no, I think this is gonna be because
this at least manages to be racist against more than one group of people.
That is true. So he meets Quarrel, who kind of brushes him off. Mm-hmm. He follows Quarrel to a bar, and then he tries to kind of like get him in private, and it's very weird because the way this is filmed and the way this is written, it's impossible to a modern observer not to read it as Quarrel wants to suck this guy off. Like, just give us some privacy, will you? Because I gotta go talk to this guy who I keep looking at in a really weird way. And so they get him in some privacy, and then Quarrel just pulls a switchblade on Bond from across a room. Not sure what he's intending to do with this.
Bond is standing next to the door, so he could just walk out.
He could just leave. He could just leave. But then Quarrel's friend, the owner of the bar, whose name I believe is Puss.
Yeah, his name is Pussfella, and I wrote that down in 72-point font in my notes.
I didn't realise that.
This motherfucker called Pussfella.
Yeah, and Pussfella rules because unlike Bond, he has a grapple attack. Yeah. He just grabs Bond by both arms.
He grabs Bond by both arms, then Quarrel says, "Ain't no use you struggling. Pussfella wrestles alligators." And I'm like, yeah, man, let's go. There are no alligators in Jamaica, but all right.
Hey, if there are, Pussfella's going to find him and he's going to wrestle.
I want you to know he's the reason why there are no fucking alligators in Jamaica.
Grapples.
Shout out to Pussfella.
How do I go?
Yeah, he's unlocked the grapple attack.
Mm-hmm. And so Bond then easily defeats both of them by doing the heavy attack, by doing a single judo.
He just smashes heavy attack.
He knocks them into a massive pile of empty cardboard boxes.
Yeah.
But then he gets stuck up with a Walther PPK, which, as we've had established,
the real man's gun.
It's a real man's gun. It's a gun that the CIA like. And we meet, for the first time, Felix Leiter, who has the weirdest fucking American accent I have ever heard. He sounds like a Kennedy on Quaaludes.
He has some
who tells him that he's from the CIA and they're on the same side.
They're also there to find out why do rockets fall down?
Why rocket fall down, Mr. Bond?
They're knocking our rockets down.
Yeah.
Bond, I can't figure it out alone. I need your assistance.
Despite the fact that this mystery is extremely obvious, Bond, I need your help to figure it out.
Yes, and this leads them to be aware of an island off of Jamaica called Crab Key.
Yeah,
and what Bond learns is that Strangways went to Crab Key with Quarrel, who was very nervous about it.
Yes, because Quarrel is superstitious and ethnic and thinks there's a dragon living there.
Ghosts. Yes.
A repeating thing we'll see whenever Quarrel is introduced is that every person of color in this movie is portrayed as being extremely instinct-driven and base.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And irrational, yeah.
It's extremely childlike race.
100%.
But before we get into this, we have to have Bond blunder into his second trap of the day, where he finds out that these samples have been given to this geology professor, who is this incredibly craggly faced man who was working as a bush pilot in Jamaica when they found him. And Bond is just like, yeah, no, I'm just going to talk this guy up, see what he knows. It's probably going to be a trap. I don't give a shit. Which he does. And Dent immediately snitches on him to his boss. His boss, who is a spooky voice.
Oh, this is an amazing introduction of Dr. No, though. I really enjoyed this scene.
Yeah, and again, it's because of no budget. What happens is, Dent goes to this all-white room with a single really uncomfortable-looking chair in it and a skylight. And then Dr. No sort of talks him through killing James Bond, that thing that we love to do.
That thing that we love to do.
Over an intercom. He gives him a fucking tarantula in a cage, and he doesn't even tell him what to do with it. He just says, "Tonight."
Yeah, and the guy's like, "Do I eat it, or should I use my gun? No, use the spider." Yeah, but this scene is very, very good.
It is a good scene.
I think it's the highlight of the film, actually. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the actor, I don't know. I can't remember the actor's name who plays Dr. No, but he's Canadian.
Richard Wiseman, I think.
And he does this. He does a very convincing English accent, or quasi-English accent.
He's got this kind of thing where he all of his diction is right in the front of his mouth, and he keeps his lips very closed.
He's supposed to be Chinese. I've no idea why any of that is true.
A stupid policeman.
But he's very good.
He's supposed to be like Chinese-German mix, I think.
He's neither of those things and doesn't sound like either of them either.
He doesn't look or sound like either of those things, but...
No, he's just a Canadian man in yellowface, but that's how they did it in the
Let's
60s.
go.
We then get to sort of the highlight of the movie for me, which is he lets the tarantula loose in Bond's room. And before I get to that, there are a couple of fun details, which is this is the only time we see Bond really do spy stuff for like the rest of the franchise. And what I mean by that is before he goes out, right, he like takes one of his hairs and he puts it on the door so he can see if anyone's been in. He puts talcum powder on his briefcase so he can see if anyone's been at the locks. And then he comes back home. He finds all of this stuff disturbed, and he's like, "There's a genuine air of menace." It's like, everyone on Jamaica is trying to kill this man.
I wrote that down. Like earlier, Bond, he seems much more intelligent. He's like laying traps.
He's more intelligent, but like he's also in danger, which you don't really like. There's peril in later movies, but like nothing so mundane. Like there's a bit where the three quote unquote blind guys try to just fucking shoot him across the street with a pistol, and the only reason it doesn't work is because a car drives past and the headlights hit them and they sort of scatter. But like Bond is a lot more vulnerable in this than he ever would be.
Yeah, again, it's just that he's lucky. That's his only character trait. He's just a jammy git.
Yeah, and so he finds this tarantula in his bed in the middle of the night, and you get this sort of exquisite shot of Sean Connery just fucking sweating buckets as this tarantula climbs up him.
Because he, in real life, is very afraid. Well, was very afraid of spiders.
Fucking terrified. Yeah. And this is then immediately destroyed by it crawls off of him, and Bond flails out of the bed, and to an orchestral sting that like gives a big like sort of fucking trombone hit every time he does it, beats a spider to death.
5 hits as well. Like he doesn't mess around.
5 hits. Yeah, he doesn't even stamp on it either. He fucking beats a spider to death with his hands.
Yeah, he does. Well, he uses a shoe.
Oh fuck, is it? Yeah.
The spider's name was Rosie, incidentally.
Oh, rest in peace to Rosie.
Well, she didn't
Episode
really die.
I know, but like, still having to crawl on Sean Connery would be unpleasant.
She's in Spider. Well, she wasn't crawling on Sean Connery
because he was terrified of spiders.
They had a layer of
glass layer. Yeah. It's extremely obvious as well because the shadow this spider is casting is like an inch to its left on Sean.
But so Bond now gets to do his other thing, which is he has to go and get some more pussy. Right. And he has to go and get this pussy from the double reverse backflip yellowface lady.
This fucking woman. this woman is introduced as Miss Taro, and they treat her being Asian as inherently suspicious because obviously the only information we have about Dr. No is that he is quote unquote Chinese, according to the CIA guy. His only guards we've seen have been Asian.
Bond gets back and he's like, "I'm afraid you've been misinformed. It's just a Canadian man in yellowfish."
He goes to her apartment.
What if a Canadian man was Chinese?
All like fucking bamboo and like red lights. And
just to really hammer home, she's Chinese.
Like she's white.
And she's wearing a fucking. Okay. So he comes to the door. On the way there, he kills the 3 blind guys by outdriving them on a fantastic sort of rolling road set where he's swinging the wheel back and forth and the car isn't moving.
Like he
kills those guys. And incidentally, this is where we get one of the first things of Bond just doing a quip when he murders someone. Because they're driving a hearse and it goes off of a cliff, and he's like, "Oh, they must have been on their way to a funeral." Waggles eyebrows at screen theatrically for the next 15 minutes.
And then meanwhile, the person he says that to is like, "Do you want to stay here for the police? Are you insured?" No. All right, bye.
No, he's going because he's got to go and fuck this allegedly Chinese lady. He needs the pussy, and she's wearing a towel, and he shows up, sort of lightly interrogates her while having foreplay with her. And then
she's somebody's secretary. She's the professor's secretary or something.
She's the principal secretary. She's his secretary. And in my favorite detail of the dubbing of this film, which really is the standout, Bond unzips her towel.
Mentioned that. He unzips her fucking towel.
There's genuinely like zzz, noise, and she's wearing a towel. There's nothing. What are you? What
Earlier
are you
on,
doing,
when he gets her at the door and he takes her towel off of her hair that she was using when she goes to pick up the phone, he puts the towel to his mouth and opens his mouth. And I had to replay it 4 or 5 times. So I was like, what the fuck are you doing?
Is such
It's
a
weird
fucking
towel
lizard.
sniffing, yeah.
I want to emphasize from fucking day one, Bond was always this creep, man.
Yeah.
Eat a woman's towel.
Yes,
Oh,
it's very unusual.
Second note.
But she,
Sorry, you first, actually.
she calls Dr. No or somebody working for Dr. No or the professor and says, James Bond is here. What do you want me to do? And so they're like, keep him here for a few hours. So it's kind of established.
I guess I'll have sex with him.
Yeah, I don't know. Is this?
It's not that. It's not kosher.
My notes here just say sexual assault, yellow face. That's all I've got.
my notes
that's
similar
fair.
to with Sylvia Trench. I started a stopwatch the first time we saw Miss Taro.
Okay.
Dev's just got hundreds of
this has gotta be
stopwatches
a
hanging off
recurring
them.
Yeah,
bit.
I'll be doing this.
Yeah.
8 minutes 45 seconds.
He works.
He's speeding
fast.
up.
He's accelerating, if anything.
You want to see which Bond out of all the actors who play Bond, who's the fastest?
What's
What's the quickest time? So the current time to beat is 8 minutes 45. All right then.
What he
write
does
this down.
is
It's the Bond pussy clock.
He has sex with her twice for no real reason other than being horny. Has her arrested for nothing because she hasn't really done anything.
Being
But he just has her
suspiciously
arrested
Asian.
anyway. Being suspiciously Asian. Oh, right before he has her arrested, they bicker about what to have for dinner. And
Because
she's like,
he knows that she's just trying to keep him. He knows that she's trying to keep him there.
She says, "I'll cook you a Chinese dinner." The least Chinese-looking woman I've ever seen.
Again, just
in my
want to
fucking life.
reiterate that I am from China.
In case you've
China.
forgotten.
Just in case you didn't realize that,
And
James.
he says, first of all, I don't want you getting dishpan hand, which fucking rocks. And then second of all, he drops my favorite line in the movie. Apropos of fucking nothing, Bond says,
I'm feeling Italian and musical.
"What, dude? You're feeling what?" Italian and musical. And
Sure,
so
man.
Find me an Italian restaurant on Jamaica in 1962.
an Italian restaurant in Jamaica that's musical, no less. I'm feeling Italian and musical. So he has her arrested, and then he just kind of lays in wait for Professor Dent.
Yeah, because the spider had failed, so he was like, right, I'm just going to fucking shoot this guy instead.
I'm just going to
Let's try
fucking
that.
murk this guy with a
Probably should have
gun.
started with that, really, but whatever.
Yeah, and so Professor Dent comes in, finds the staged Bond in the bed, shoots him a lot of times.
Uses the old pillow trick.
Yeah, shoots him 6 times, and then Bond turns on the light and was like, "Aha, I'm behind you the whole time," and then just murders him. Like absolute cold blood. Gets a quip in too. Because
the professor goes, he initially throws down the gun.
Goes for the gun.
And then Bond's like,
Yeah.
"Who are you working for?" And he's like, "I'm not going to tell you." And Bond's like, "All right, then whatever." And then he goes, basically, he doesn't press him very hard. He goes for the gun, and then he pulls the gun on Bond and fires it, and it's empty. And Bond says a line from the books. He says, "That's a Smith & Wesson, and you've had your 6.
It is
not
not.
a Smith
Not a
& Wesson.
Smith
It's
&
not a
Wesson.
revolver.
It's
It
not
actually
a
has 7
revolver.
shots in it, but whatever." And then Bond just shoots him in cold blood.
Which is phenomenal
Yeah, a
because
couple
times.
he's just proven conclusively that this man now poses him absolutely no threat because he's got no bullets
Yeah,
left.
he fucking
So he
kills
could
his ass
get
dead,
information.
and then
Yeah.
takes the suppressor off of his pistol with his finger on the trigger the whole time, and just kind of sucks it off for a second.
Right.
Like I think he's supposed to be blowing the gas out of it, but it really does just come across like he's just doing a bit. And so, we've established Crab Key, Dr. No, doing nefarious shit to make Rocket fall down.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to go there, but Quarrel doesn't want to go because of ghosts.
Quarrel doesn't want to go
It's
because
just occurred to me that had Dr. No just not murdered Strangways at the start, none of this would have happened.
yeah,
Absolutely
Dr. No
no
could have just
reason to
done
do
nothing.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Quarrel is like, I don't want to go there during daylight because there's a dragon. And then these two fucking white
Sneering
boys.
imperial ass motherfuckers. He goes like, native superstition. It's like,
Yeah,
oh.
and there's so much of this.
Non-stop.
But they make him go take him to the island anyway. Bond lands on the island, finds pussy immediately. It just arrives for him on the beach.
The famous shot of Ursula Andress.
Famous shot of Ursula Andress, Honey Rider.
Lord almighty.
Yeah, she comes out in a fucking like in a bikini. Bond shows up. She pulls a knife on him, which at least like she has the right idea about him. But he dissuades her, and then Dr. No's army of henchmen show up and sort of machine gun the beach and force them to run and hide.
I want to take a moment to note, and I think I might even be noting the same thing that you are here, Alice. Is when
Is
Dr.
it the hench fit?
No, it's not.
Okay,
it's not. It's when the henchmen come round the corner of the island in their machine gun boat. It's established that they need to hide. So Bond takes Honey Rider's hand and they go to run. And Bond turns to Quarrel and says, "Fetch my shoes."
I
Fetch
know. I
my
wrote
fucking
full
shoes.
caps. This MF cannot stop giving orders to Quarrel.
No,
I'm like,
he
it's
fetch my
cannot.
shoes.
astonishing.
Fuck off.
There's an imminent threat that you don't need your shoes to hide from a machine gun, James. But he just says, "Fetch my shoes."
Fetch
And
my
then he
shoes.
says, "You hide over there, and I'd hide over here with Pussy. I mean, Honey Rider." Like,
Might as well be
It's
called
a-
pussy,
it
to be
is-
fair.
She is let's say ambiguously ethnic
She-
in that she has a tan and a weird
Her accent
accent.
gets slowly less weird over the course of it. She starts out with quite
Because
a
again,
strong
she's-
one, and then by the end,
because
she
she's
just
dubbed.
sounds like the same woman.
she's dubbed
And
by
also-
the same lady.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think she's
and the
supposed to
other-
be Swiss.
The other fun thing about Honey Rider is that, like Quarrel, she is childlike.
Oh, absolutely.
The whole time.
Infantile.
And not just like, I'm not just saying this. She talks about how like her father was the zoologist and they used to travel the world, and her only education was reading an encyclopedia, and she has got up to T.
I know. Oh my god.
And
Such a
Bond is like, yeah, this is the fucking hottest
Bond's like,
shit
holy
I've seen
fuck,
in my
I'm
life.
gonna
Yeah,
fuck
yeah.
this
It's a Bond. It's
infantile
like one
person.
step down from like she's 1,000 years old, but she has the anime titties body of a 17. Like it's one step down from that.
Like
She's established to be dumb as bricks.
the danger presents itself, and Bond immediately grabs the woman's arm to pull her to where she needs to be, and tells Quarrel where else to go. And it's like, how about you fuck off, mate? Shut the
Yeah,
fuck
this is
up.
the kind of shit that should get Bond righteously shot in the back of the head by Quarrel. But like,
Yeah,
no.
get your own damn shoes.
Ridiculous.
Son of a bitch.
They Metal Gear Solid their way through a swamp, and then they meet the fucking dragon, because like Bond maybe should learn a valuable lesson here about intelligence received, right? But he simply does not. The whole time he's like, "There's not a dragon. This is a fucking come on, man."
And Honey Rider, by the way, is like, there is also a dragon. I have seen it. I have read about.
And he's like,
the word in
women.
what's the letter D?
There's a point where she points at a pair of incredibly clearly tank tracks on the ground and goes, "Look, dragon tracks." And it's like, yeah, okay. Fucking nice, man. Absolutely.
And we meet the dragon, which is the funniest shit I've seen in a minute.
Yeah.
The dragon is a wheeled armored vehicle that has had a dragon face painted on it, and it has a flamethrower.
Presumably because, again, Chinese!
Yeah, and it's the least threatening fucking vehicle I've ever seen in my life.
But Bond still manages to get owned, because while he's sort of like he's in this sort of quasi-military fetch my shoes commanding mode, and his plan is, okay, you and me, we're just gonna shoot at the front of this with our tiny pistols. This does not
His
work.
plan is to
at
shoot
all.
out the fucking headlights on it. Like, all right.
Yeah, you know what kind of provides a lot of light is a flamethrower. And so as a consequence, Quarrel gets fucking incinerated.
And it's
Yeah, R.I.P. Quarrel. F's in chat.
impossible to overstate how completely avoidable Quarrel getting incinerated was, because this thing was coming towards them so fucking slowly, and the flamethrower had a range of maybe 10 feet. but it incinerates Quarrel, and then immediately they just turn off the machine and get out and go, all right, we're going to take you away now. It's like,
yeah, we just wanted to kill that one guy.
Bond isn't even fucking sad.
Yeah, Bond's not even asked. He's like, what happened to my shoes?
Bond's like, fuck, he had my shoes.
Damn, he had my shoes. Oh. But also, Quarrel has been shown like swigging rum in a cheeky way at various points. So he probably goes up pretty well.
Does go up pretty well. It's
And
impressive.
yeah, because ragdoll physics weren't invented yet, so the special effect for this is just Quarrel just fucking falls over completely stone ass dead.
Mm-hmm.
which But then, like, we get the first instance of Bond is bonked on the head and captured and brought to the lair, which is underneath a bauxite mine. And Dr. No is the only person in the fucking movie who knows how to decorate, is the thing. We have these sort of beautiful Ken Adams sets where everything's like lots of concrete that's sort of brushed in interesting ways. And they have to... Oh yeah, there is the detail that like both Bond and Ryder are thoroughly fucking irradiated because
yeah,
the island's radioactive, dog. And so what they have to do is they have to like Bond has to like get sprayed with shaving foam and then brushed once with a broom, and then Honey Ryder has to take a full shower. It's great.
Absolutely.
They're decontaminated
and then there's a lot of people working there who, again, are all Chinese.
All Chinese, and then they get brought to a room where they're supposed to stay, and it's like, you will stay comfortably here, and you will be Dr. No's guest. And then they get drugged, kind of pointlessly. Yeah, he just drugs them for shits and giggles.
For no reason, because they get drugged, and then they just wake up in a bed, rested. It's just like, I just want to make sure you sleep well, Mr. Bond.
Dr. No is such a fucking considerate host that he will roofie his guests, but only to make sure they get a good night's sleep.
There's also no reason to have that scene. They could have just gone straight to the scene where Dr. No introduces himself. I don't know why this is even in there.
Dr. No roofies them because he was going to see them for dinner and they got there too early or some shit. Like, he's literally just killing the fucking time between and then they have to dress up also in Asian clothing, of course, because
they have to you gotta dress Chinese for this. Bond wears a sort of the sort of Mao 4-pocket suit, and then Honey Ryder gets to wear a cheongsam and like pants. And they go and have dinner with Dr. No.
I'm surprised he's not like, would you like some hoisin duck and pancakes, Mr. Bond?
And throughout all of this woman is getting not only more and more English accented, but I think she might also be getting blonder. Like,
yeah, she does. She goes to put on her clothes and her hair is a completely different color.
It's the radiation. It's the radiation makes you blonde.
Yeah.
She's getting bimboified.
They wander through Dr. No's office, which is like on the way to dinner, I guess, as a flex. And they find that he has a cool aquarium window because they're under the fucking ocean. And all of the fish look massive. The reason why this is, they altered the script, right? They have Bond say, yeah, I made it myself. It's this convex glass. And Bond actually has this quite incisive critique of supervillains where he says, yeah, minnows pretending that they're fish. And,
minnows pretending to be whales.
Minnows
and then
pretending
just
to be whales.
He's like, just like you. And Dr. No was like, I understood. I understood that's what you were saying, yes.
The reason why this is in there is because they bought stock footage of fish and it didn't scale properly, so all of the fish looked fucking massive and they couldn't change it.
Yeah, because they're stood in front of a quite clearly not convex window saying it's convex.
Yeah, and now we get to the fun part. This is the best scene in the movie.
100%.
This is... Bond, No, and Honey Ryder enjoy a delightful dinner of 2 grapes.
And Dr. No goes completely out of his way to mention his fucking hands at least 3 times. Like, when he introduces himself, he holds out a hand as if to shake and goes, I
have
don't
metal
really shake
hands, by the way.
Hands.
Because of the metal hands, which I lost doing mad science.
Because of radiation,
he has
think.
Shiny black metal hands, yeah.
Yeah, I was... Chinese black metal does sound like a fun genre. But no. He. Oh God.
The
I mean,
spread is so good.
my favorite thing is that Bond lands this absolute fucking roast of him because they're kind of like. First things first, they have to get the woman out of the way, which they do. And Dr. No is like, yeah, no, my guards are just going to probably rape her. And Bond tries to hit him over the head with a bottle of Dom Perignon.
Bond goes for
and
a special move.
And is dissuaded by it being pointed out to him how
Bond
nice
learned
the
a
fucking
third attack.
champagne is. And he's just like, oh, yeah, okay, fine. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, Dr. No's like, it's a 50, he says it's a 56 or something, and Bond's like, I prefer the 53
55.
myself. 55, and
Like,
Bond's
yeah,
like, I prefer the
I-
53
Bond
myself.
literally goes just like, get the woman out of here. It's nothing to do with her. And Dr. No's like,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
right, leave. And then the woman just goes for the rest of the movie. Because they were clearly
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, yeah.
all right, that's enough.
She goes to the same
Screen
place
time.
that Felix Leiter did, who has just fucking vanished.
Just,
Yeah, he's just fucking gone. He's climbed into the machina to
just
X later.
completely vanishes.
No, what happens is they then have this sort of ideological conversation, right, where Dr. No outlines what his whole vibe is, and his vibe is being the INTJ meme. Like,
The successful criminal brain is always superior. It has to be.
and so he announces that, like, but Bond gets this flex in that's just like, oh, you kill so many people, you gotta be a communist.
Right.
And No hits him with,
East, west, just points of the compass, each as stupid as the other.
fucking go off.
Yeah, because I
It's a
think
great
I
compliment.
think it might be in the original novel it was that he was working for the communists, but they change it in this film because I think by the time this film came out that was too much of a cliche. So this is Dr. No in classic Bond villain style explains who he is and just says, actually I work for a secret organization that MI7 has never heard of called Spectre.
I have a drop for this.
I'm a member of Spectre.
Spectre?
Spectre.
That is unaltered. They literally do just say Spectre back
For about
and forth.
5 minutes as well. It was a strange sequence.
Spectre.
I lost my
Spectre.
fucking mind when I
Spectre.
found out what Spectre stood for. Like, he just
Yeah,
says it.
yeah.
Special
let you-
executive for counterintelligence. Okay, cool. Terrorism. Fine. Revenge and extortion.
It's such a clear acronym. They're like, fuck.
The 4 pillars of power.
We're going to call it
I
Spectre.
mean, you could have had
What does that stand
racketeering.
for? I don't know. Special.
but my favorite detail about this is that, like, both Bond and No are just roasting each other the whole time, including the reason why the group chat we have to organize this podcast is currently called Ablest James Bond, which is Bond goes,
Oh, we can't all be geniuses, can we? Tell me, does the toppling of American missiles really compensate for having no hands?
It's fucking get it, man. And it's so completely up because his hands are not only functional,
no,
exceedingly functional. Like,
we see him like crush a thing to threaten Bond with them, and he's just like, "Yeah, no hands, much, bitch." But
It's
No
like, how do
gets
you
his
jack
fucking
off with those things?
no,
how do you finger a woman with a hand like that?
Noah's like, well, I thought I was gonna recruit you for Spectre. That's why I brought you here. I have a better reason for not killing you immediately than any other Bond villain in the franchise. And Bond laughs it off. He's like, yeah, give me the revenge section. That one sounds cool, you fucking bitch. and what No tells him is,
You are just a stupid policeman.
It's an unironically phenomenal scene where the two of them are sort of duking it out with words.
Yeah.
Both of them.
Yeah.
and it's fucking accurate. That's Bond's whole vibe, more or less. Like, he pretends not to be, but yeah, he's a dumb, lucky cop.
It's something.
Yeah, Dr. No absolutely has his number.
Yeah, and that number, 007.
That number is
But no,
007.
Dr. No is just like, yeah, I've finished my grapes. Just have this guy beaten.
And I want to stress at this point that Dr. No's plan is that he's going to use his nuclear reactor in his base to create a radio wave that'll make the fucking rocket at Cape Canaveral fall over. And then when that is
put it on
accomplished,
course.
he'll blow up his base and go somewhere else.
Yeah, he actually tells us that's his plan.
He's straight up.
It's not entirely clear I mean, it seems if you've gone to all the trouble to build this base,
I know.
and if you wanted to use it to divert missiles, I mean, why not keep
It's right
the base?
there, man. It's pretty strategically
It's a great-
located. But he's like, yeah, no. Once I've done this, I'm going to blow it up and move on to some
I'm gonna
other
do
shit.
something else. Questionable.
I just
gonna
wanted
fuck
to
around.
see if I could do this. I don't know. I'm going to start a podcast. I don't know.
He stole $10 million from like the Yakuza or something like that.
The tongs, the hip
The
sing
tongs.
tong.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
And
that's
I
why-
wrote like
yeah.
$10 million has been fucking ruined by inflation. You can't get a decent secret evil
Like,
base for 10
Bonds-
million these days.
You can get a damn good pair of hands, though. Apparently,
Really?
No's first line in the movie is,
$1 million, Mr. Bond.
and that's him talking about how expensive his fucking window is.
Out of
I mean, I know that
that's a
stock
tenth-
footage of fish is pricey, but $1 million?
That's a tenth of the money he stole. How is that?
Yeah, he just he blew it all on this window.
Single most expensive element.
The Spectre accounts department are like, Dr. No, what are you spending this on? Like, your expenses are awful.
Dr. No, we just needed you to have like a radio telescope or something to
I
knock
cannot
a
stress
missile
enough.
over.
I cannot stress enough that No's whole vibe is
A
this.
successful criminal brain is always superior.
It's just like, yeah.
And the successful criminal brain spent 10% of your budget on a window for fish.
it's so
Again,
good.
someone at Spectre is like, why are we giving this guy money?
Why? Yeah, and like we don't. That's the other fun thing. We don't know anything about Spectre other than their stupid ass name. But like, so we have Bond beaten, right, and thrown in jail, and then Bond plays fucking Hitman 3 like I do, which is to say, he busts out of his cell by virtue of like kicking the world's flimsiest grate
can't get
off.
good.
He
prison
uses his
cells these
shoes.
days.
Thanks, Quarrel.
Yep. Climbs
Man.
through a series of ducts, finds a guy in one of the like weird like Tesco bag ass hazmat
Really
suits
never mentioned Quarrel.
that they're all wearing because of the radiation, and just kind of like hugs him until he can take his clothes.
Yeah, Bond learns a new attack. He levels up.
Yeah, he learned it
Yeah,
from
no,
Pussfella.
this is the thing. It's not the first time. It's not the first time because he gets to do this once before. When they're fleeing across the salt marsh, he like very gently hugs a man from behind and cradles him down into
That
the
was his
water
first
without
attempt.
visibly harming him at all.
Oh, it's
And
like a
then
contextual button press stealth attack that
Yeah,
Bond can
and,
do.
and
yeah.
Honey Rider is like, I can't believe you did that. Did what? And
Yeah.
Bond's just like, because I
It's
had
like half
to.
implied that he kills him, but I can't see how. Like he took the knife off Honey
Yeah.
Rider in that scene,
And then he just kind of like makes the guy lie down. It
and,
fucking
and it
rules.
cuts to Honey Rider, and this we're going way back, but it cuts to Honey Rider in this, and she just goes like, "Why?" She's looking completely off to the side. It's like he just sort of like pushed him over.
In the previous scene, Honey Rider confessed to a murder. She says,
Yeah, she murdered her
I murdered
rapist."
my landlord." Yeah.
My landlord rapist,
Worst,
which
worst kind of land.
So I mean, Bond gets this hazmat suit, which like obscures his face not much at all,
Mhm.
and he wanders into the world's best decorated nuclear reactor.
It's a sick set. It's actually a phenomenal set.
It's a fucking. It
It
fucking
whips
goes
so
so hard, man. It's like this beautiful poured concrete. Every second surface has a big flashing light on it that says "danger level maximum"
It's so
or something.
Oh.
And in the middle of this is Dr. No, like wearing a plastic bag over his head because of the radiation.
Yeah,
because
and they
for
are-
some reason, not only do you need a nuclear reactor that irradiates the whole fucking
It's a
island it's
completely
on,
open nuclear reactor.
but to use that nuclear reactor, you need to be in the same room as it.
Yeah, you don't want to put a cover on that or something? Like,
like the
no, we spent all the budget on a window.
You can just have that in another building. But
Yeah,
no. I have to line up with all of my guys next to the nuclear reactor.
A successful
Can't-
criminal brain is always
It's not just
superior.
that. It's that like the big switch to turn on the nuclear reactor is on like a gantry
It's a
above
crank.
it.
It's a hand
Cannot stress
crank.
enough. So they are in the process of make rocket fall down. and 10 feet away is just an open nuclear reactor. And I can't help but feel that even if you had a radiation suit, that's not going to work, man. No wonder you lost your hands.
He put so much of his money into that fucking window. It was just like, we don't have any shielding for the reactor, and also we can't afford a second room.
Bond fucking fudges every stealth roll across this room, right? He picks up some documents that they just have in the nuclear reactor room and is just kind of like perusing them and walking around and looking at like the most suspicious motherfucker you've seen in your life.
He's almost whistling.
That's a going theme in this movie, is that no one knows how to look casual. Like the three blind mice guys are constantly looking completely suspicious the whole way around. And
the guy, the sweating guy,
even in the intro where the guy walks across and then shoots at the fucking camera, the classic introduction to James Bond, his walk,
which is not Connery,
his walk is so suspicious. And then,
well, because that's not an actor, that's Bond's stunt
guy. They just did it last minute. Yeah. No one knows how to be casual.
It's so funny how shit it looks when you can see it in HD now. So funny. Yeah, I highly recommend that. But Bond gets he gets his disguise blown by Dr. No, who thinks he's a guy called Chang because everyone is Chinese.
Important note. This guy...
I cannot stress enough, this man is Chinese.
This man who has specifically said he's not working with the East. All of his guys are just Chinese for some reason.
Chinese.
He's like, Dr. No's like, Chang, why aren't you wearing your yellow face?
And maybe we should take the second to stress that Dr. No is wearing makeup that makes him look a little bit more Chinese. He's got
he's a Canadian man in yellow face.
He's got like something above his eye to make it look like he doesn't have a fold there, and nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
Also, he is dressed like Chairman Mao the whole time.
He is dressed like Chairman Mao, but wearing a plastic bag over his head. And he busts Bond stroke Chang, like, skulking. And essentially just tells him, just go to work. Go, get across the room and go to the big switch that make reactor go yes.
It's incredible.
Which Bond does, right? And my favorite part is the guy working next to him who has my exact physique. It's just a guy. It's just kind of a schlubby guy with a paunch wearing a plastic bag.
Yeah, it's fully see-through, that guy's entire thing. It's so funny.
And he's just like wearing a t-shirt and shorts underneath. He's just like, I came here from podcasts.
I'm safe as hell right now, man.
He's come from the beach, like.
Oh, yeah, also, sorry. Honey Rider's just getting shells. That's why she's on the beach.
Yeah, she likes shells because she has the mind of a child.
She's like, this is worth $50.
What's she doing right now? We don't know.
Impossible to say. She's somewhere else.
Yeah, who care? But like, so as Dr. Noah's preparing to knock the rocket over, Bond turns a big crank, moving a danger level meter past the level that says danger. It says nothing else on it, merely danger level. And he's like, this should go to the right. So he does that. The podcast guy tries to fight him. And for that, this kind of like schlubby guy is my hero, right? Because Bond presses the B button and like judo throws him off the edge of the gantry and he just fucking dies.
10-foot drop. Again, 10-foot drop.
10-foot drop, he's just fucking
This is
gone.
in the wild one of the only examples of turning a big wheel that says something and looking back at Dr. No like a contestant on The Price is Right. He's just rotating this big fucking thing that says danger rating and like checking over his shoulder every couple of seconds.
But what's also very fun is all these podcast henchmen have quite clearly been trained very well, because an alarm sounds and all the henchmen just fucking bail.
Leave.
They just all of them just leave. They just exit stage right and go.
Mm-hmm. Except for Dr. No, who is like, I gotta fist fight this guy with my metal hands.
Well, he has the advantage.
Yeah. So he climbs on top of the gantry over this open nuclear reactor. They fist fight. Bond judo throws him off the gantry because he's got one move.
Bond uses the heavy attack and just
he uses the heavy attack. He throws him over the thing.
Presses A again.
And Dr. No is like, he's trying to climb out of the like boiling reactor water, and he can't get any purchase on the thing because, and I cannot stress this enough, no hands.
So the lesson
Well, we can't all be geniuses, can we? Tell me, does the toppling of American missiles really compensate for having no hands?
I
So
guess
the
not.
lesson
not.
of this movie is having no hands.
Do not be disabled.
Is a problem for you. Like he's
Yeah,
just
if you have a disability, it will be your undoing in the ultimate like.
Well, this starts a trend that continues even into the modern day James Bonds.
Oh,
It's
we'll
very-
get to
it's
the
very-
fucking die another day
it's
wheelchair
very
thing.
Richard
We'll
the-
get
We'll
there.
get
It's very Richard III. Is that all the Bond villains have some kind of physical
Deformity.
problem. Yeah.
great.
But anyway, the base is exploding, and he finds Honey Rider tied to the floor for some reason.
Yeah,
and they
it's
escape.
like I'd say it's like a 2 out of 10 damsels in distress. I will point out one detail. In the original script, she was intended to be menaced by crabs.
What?
And the crabs that they got in Jamaica had been shipped internationally in frozen containers, and so they just had a bunch of sluggish crabs who didn't want to act. He didn't want to act in a very aggressive way, and so they were just like, "Yeah, no, we'll just have her have him try and drown her instead." So she's like chained up.
Yeah.
They didn't want to wait for the crabs to warm up.
Like the room
No.
that James walks into where Honey Rider is, it feels like there was a scene that just didn't happen there. Like she's
Yeah, the crab scene.
clearly in the crab scene, I suppose. Yeah, she's clearly in like a setup, and he just walks in and goes, "Jesus," and just like lets her out, and then they leave.
Yeah, they did all of this. They did all of this bondage stuff.
He's like, we'll just
Yeah.
skip this scene.
And so on the way out, he does a series of heavy and light attacks against people. There's one moment where he like collars a guy where he's trying to find out where Ryder is. He's like, "Where is she?" He's like, oh no. He punches him to the floor, and then another henchman executes the sickest jump I've seen, just over his friend's body. He's just like, "Yeah, fuck this
And then-
shit."
And then,
out.
fortunately, Bond finds a woman he can grab to ask where.
Yeah, he grabs the nearest woman, who is, like, in my opinion, significantly more attractive than any of the quote-unquote Bond girls in this
100%.
movie, but she is black,
Yeah.
so, like, that, no.
Of course.
So, yeah, he's just like, "Where is she?" And he like, unbuckles her from this James bondage, punches his way to the exit, having just fucking shinobled a decent part of
Yeah,
Jamaica, I think.
Yeah. I just want to point out that Bond has exploded a nuclear reactor in the Caribbean Ocean. So not well. First of all, he's dead. He's got cancer within 5 years. He's fully dead.
Oh yeah.
No, it's fine. They just put him in the shower and they like scrubbed him once with
Yeah,
that brush,
fine.
which is how you get rid of radiation.
Jamaica and a large section of the ocean is now permanently irradiated. He should have just let Dr. No make Rocket fall down and escaped and said, "Hey, I
You
know
can
who made
build
Rocket
a
fall down."
second rocket.
Yeah.
fall down.
Yeah, you should have just escaped and said, "Hey, I found out who's making Rocket fall down. You'll never believe it. It's a Canadian man in yellowfish in the Caribbean."
no.
Also, I caused a nuclear reactor meltdown off the coast of Jamaica. Sorry.
This is an island that is so radioactive that they get irradiated from running around on it and getting mud under their fingernails and
Because
stuff.
Dr. No can't afford another room.
He couldn't afford
Because
any
he spent all
shielding.
of his money on a window.
Yeah, and he's just sent that fucking island into the atmosphere.
Oh, fuck, that window is probably the sleeper bad guy of the fucking movie.
Yeah, like genuinely, Doctor No looking at the control panel with two buttons, $1 million window or reactor
He's
shielding.
like, buddy, I
and
know
it's just
what I want.
firmly pressing. Yeah, I do what I want, and what I want is to look at some giant
Wanna see
fish.
some fucking fish, dude. Let's go.
Giant fish. Bond punches his way onto a convenient boat. Guys are like, this is the original like evil base blow up
100%.
thing. There's guys diving off of piers. It's all done in miniature. It's really well done, all things considered. This thing blows the fuck up, and then his mate Felix Leiter shows up and is like, "Would you like some rescue?" "No thanks. I am going to fuck this child-brained woman in this boat."
Bond shags in a boat. There's
That's
a
the-
weird
that's
number
the
of
movie.
Bond films end with him
Movie,
shagging
baby.
in a boat. It happens quite often.
Yeah, and like this is the first. So, and that's we don't even get a James Bond will return. We just get the end.
We never get like a debrief. He never goes back to England and M's like, good work, Bond. You made Rocket not fall down.
Nope.
We see on the
Bond,
TV
did
that
Rocket
Rocket
fall
no
down?
fall down. Rocket goes straight up.
Oh,
So we know he did it.
Well, we see fine work, 007. We see Rocket go up.
Mm.
Mr. Bond,
And then
Mr.
that's
Bond,
it. He
I'm on
Bond
the
shags in
radio
a
here.
boat.
Did Rocket fall down? Did Rocket fall down, Mr. Bond?
I can't talk to you now. I'm shagging this child-brained woman in a boat.
Ah, very well. Does she still have her shells?
Is she
No,
wearing
they're
yellow
fucking
face
gone.
007?
He's cheated her out of $50.
Fucked up. Oh, God.
So what we have on this podcast is a system, right? We're not just going to say, oh, this Bond movie is bad, right? We have a system. We're going to rate them out of 007 on the 4 attributes of Bond: smarm, cultural insensitivity, unprovoked violence, and misogyny.
The scum spectrum.
The scum spectrum. So how do you think Dr. No falls in terms of smarm?
I think it's not the smarmiest James Bond ever gets. I think I'm going to give him a 5 out of 7 at smarm.
I kind of agree, right? Because Connery is like pulling the smarm out. Like he will smirk at everything, especially the whole it's dragon, is it thing. But like there's an air of vulnerability to Bond in this that just will not come back until Casino Royale, basically. So I think lower on the smarm, cultural insensitivity.
We're looking at a full 7 out of 7.
7 out of 7. Like the instinct.
What if a Chinese woman was white but also Chinese and then Chinese?
Like we want to have a Chinese woman as a main character, but also we would hate to employ a Chinese woman. So we've got a white woman in a bamboo house.
Yeah.
And then Oliver Black Guy being Olive Quarrel. Let's put some respect on his name.
Quarrel.
Being instinct driven. Like he makes this point several times when he's being asked to just give them navigation directions to Crab Key and they'll go himself.
So they don't have to come to the island. He's just like, I navigate with my
goes,
senses.
I get my navigation from my nose, my eyes, my instincts. Then later on, when they're about to set off at night, Bond's like, we'll be fine. And he goes, where my belly used to be tells me different. And it's like they take every single step to make sure we know for a fucking fact that this guy is less than Bond, both intellectually and physically.
This is the most imperial Bond movie by a long shot, because when it was made, this was still like a thing. Like Jamaica was not a nation; it was a colony.
It was still a crown colony, and it was
still a crown colony. You still had these clubs full of white guys in shorts sitting around, being like, yes, one pedophilia, please.
Well, this is what I mean when I say that when James Bond films are bad, they're bad in ways that reflect the society that made them, and that's why I think they're kind of interesting culturally.
And in this ever-changing world in which we're living,
now unprovoked violence, not very
I would say
high.
low. Like he, as I say, he has 2 moves, but like he only ever really seems to deploy those moves when somebody is like a direct obstacle to him.
With
like,
the exception of the Professor, which is just murder.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, he does murder a guy straight up. So I think that's got to boost it up. Let's say a 6, maybe?
Out of 7?
Yeah.
I would say so, because like the murder offsets a lot of...
I genuinely believe it to be like a 1 or 2 out of 7.
I think he does get a lot more violent later on.
I want to give us room to go way up.
All right, you know what? Fine, I concede the point. So we'll say like a 1 or a 2 in unprovoked violence. Now, misogyny.
Oh, where do we start?
Again, he does get a lot more misogynist later on.
There aren't, I would say, and this is very sort of fluid. It's entirely dependent on your own sort of ethics here. I would say that there aren't outright rapes in this movie.
Yes.
Like, I don't think Bond is on screen vitiating anybody's consent, which he will do later, 1,000,000%.
Yes, there are some explicit rapes later in the series.
Talking about the misogyny of this movie, it's we have to decide, are we talking about the misogyny of Bond or the misogyny of the movie? Because that is definitely 2 different things.
Yeah. This is like...
The movie...
I would say that there's less like... There's less miss in this misogyny because it's much more straightforwardly Yeah, it's much more straightforwardly just a sexual fantasy in that everybody wants to fucking get railed by Bond. And that persists through all of the movies, but like, yeah, the grimmer stuff that we're going to talk about, especially like later Connery, there's fully, like, it's just made explicit that women are not into Bond and he's just fucking them whatever. But like in this case, everybody from Moneypenny on down wants the D.
Yeah.
And is like willing to do pretty much whatever for it.
Yeah, and also, you know, comes onto him and takes part in it. With the I mean, I want to give it a few points for Honey Rider's child brain.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I
think the movie itself is more misogynistic than Bond is, just through how the women are portrayed. Bond himself, at least, seems, in most of the cases, for things to be consensual.
Well, he even straight up tells Honey Rider, my intentions are strictly honorable. And although that's not true, it's more than he ever bothers to do later.
And there's one point I want to bring up, just to sort of drive home the misogyny of the movie itself and the production, is that the character Sylvia Trench and Moneypenny, those actresses were originally supposed to be playing each other's character. They were swapped when the director of this movie, who I don't care for his name and I'll never credit him, said that the character who ended up playing Sylvia Trench, quote, smelled of sex, which is why she got given the smarmier job. So the movie itself is fucking horrendous in its treatment of women, in its treatment of cultural minorities.
Yeah.
So apart from our patented scum spectrum, which upon which this comes out fairly well, we've eased into the Bond canon.
Yeah, it's a total score of 17.
Not one of the most egregious. How was this movie to watch? How did we enjoy watching it?
Well, go ahead.
I find it kind of middling. It has a long sort of dry spell in the middle. There's like, I appreciate that there's more intrigue than that you usually get in a Bond movie. I appreciate that there's more threat than you usually get in a Bond movie, but like, it takes a fucking while. Like, it's a 2-hour movie and it feels like it could have lost a half hour.
Definitely. Yeah, I was skipping through parts when I watched through it the second time.
On the other hand, though, I think it's worth like retaining in the canon or whatever, purely because of that dinner conversation over 2 grapes each with Dr. No, where I mean, you're not gonna get a better critique of James Bond in the James Bond movies, and I include the modern Daniel Craig ones with that, than
you are just a stupid policeman.
I mean, fucking get his ass. Dude.
Yeah, it was a nice place to start, because I alluded at the start that there's 2 reasons I find the Bond films interesting, one political, which we explored, and one personal. And the personal one has a hauntological dimension to it as well. And that's because when I first went to drama school and began my professional acting career, I remember them telling me at drama school, your casting is period hottie, sexy doctor, or discount Hiddleston. And I remember somebody, they did, that's what they told me. I remember somebody telling me, you are going to play James Bond someday. That's what your career can be aimed at. But then, of course, something happened to me, as it happened to Alice and to Dev.
I feel like you still can.
A very strange
thing happened, which is that I found out I was a woman. So that's why there is this kind of hauntology to the Bond series for me. So it's quite interesting to look back and see Bond not as a kind of mythical ideal of masculinity or something to be aimed at, because, you know, as I said at the start, Alice and I, we've been in that world, we've lived that kind of life.
Yeah, this podcast is a little bit of therapy for us. We are kind of scourging ourselves of this dickhead who plotted out the course of what masculinity was supposed to be like, and so we're doing this all trans feminist podcast
to kill James Bond.
That's right. We have to kill the Bond in our heads. And that's what we're gonna fucking do. And we're gonna get into like the fucking character and the inner life of the women around James Bond. We're gonna do all 24 movies. We're gonna have a Patreon,
including the one with a trans Bond girl.
We're gonna have a Patreon where the deal is we've invented a totally unique podcasting system, which no one has ever done before. Where if you subscribe to our Patreon, you get a bonus episode per free episode. And those bonus episodes are going to be about things, let's say the deuterocanonical Bonds. So our first bonus episode, which should be coming out the same time as this, is going to be about GoldenEye 64.
We do have a guest lined up for that, but we can't say yet. But
Classified.
when you hear this, it will probably be out, so we don't have to say either. Just head on over to the Patreon.
Head on over to the Patreon,
it reasonably
subscribe.
Priced. We may also do some Q&A episodes at some point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll vibe it out. We'll see how we do.
Well, this has been episode 1. Was expecting a funnier name than just Dr. No to shake out in the thing, but I guess we're just calling it Dr. No. Dr. No and the Adventure of the $1 Million Window.
$1 Million Window. You needed to see those fish, man.
And of course, James Bond will return, as will we, as we investigate the next Bond movie in the season.
I believe it's From Russia with Love.
From Russia.
I will have watched From Russia with Love in preparation for it, so it better be.
To you.
Let's just say it's From Russia with Love, and if we're wrong, it is From Russia with Love.
Perfect. This is great. This is good. This is a good ending. Do you want to plug yourselves in case anyone doesn't know who you are, Abby?
Nobody doesn't know, and she's singing. Once trans women get like this, I'm afraid we're
going to have to stop before we start singing as well.
Yes.
And I just want to.
It's a fantastic song. We'll hear it.
If I've said anything interesting or cogent, I can almost guarantee it came about in conversation with a girlfriend of the show, my girlfriend Eliane, while we were watching it the first time. I am not as smart as I came across.
Dev has used up their plug already.
There is one detail that I want to add as a closing note. You already know who we are. I don't feel any need to introduce ourselves again or plug the Patreon again. I merely want to point out that at an early scene, Professor Dent accidentally Borats. Check this shit out.
Cherchez la femme. That secretary of his was very nice. Very nice indeed.
Very nice.
Very nice. Bye, everyone.
Bye.